This is Movies, a podcast about the act of cinema. And with me today to count down his favorite films of 2024, it's Hans.
I was just checking Uber Eats to see what's the cheapest place where I can get a wonton soup at this time of the
Off
day.
of Uber Eats.
Yeah, China sent a bunch of workers to build the soccer stadium that we have now, which is this big soccer stadium. And in exchange, the government just gave them businesses and homes and everything. So now every other corner, there's like a Chinese supermarket or a Chinese convenience store or a Chinese restaurant. So we even have like our own little Chinatown thing. No other, just the Chinese one. So there you find like stores where you get Chinese products or Chinese food or Chinese like ingredients for food. And then a lot of other restaurants that you don't find anywhere else in the country. So it's cool. It doesn't have to be Costa Rican wonton soup. That sounds horrendous. That's just beans
It would
and
not be my first pick. I would not
chicharrones.
go for
Yeah.
the wonton soup from Costa Rican Chinese restaurants. That's just my personal bias, though. And this is an episode full of biases. We will be counting down the 10 best films of 2024. How do you even measure what a good film is, let alone a great film? And do we even care about what a good movie might be? Some might say The King's Speech is a good movie. Would I
Well,
care about The King's Speech? No. No, I care more about interesting films than good films. A good film, you couldn't persuade me with that. An interesting film, you certainly can.
yeah. And that good film, it's really up to whoever decides that's a good film, right? Because on the last episode, as I was saying, fucking Conclave and what's the Favia Lopez, whatever the fucking name is, but Maria Perez are getting a lot of awards, and they're supposed to be good movies, but they're both not that. So
No, I don't understand what is compelling the Hollywood Foreign Press or whoever's in charge of the Golden Globes to make that their pick for best movie musical comedy when Challengers had its name right there. And actually I feel like the category for best movie musical or comedy had better options than the drama for Golden Globes this year. Can we take a look real quick? I know
yeah.
we talked about it at length for our episode where we were talking about Sauna. We went through the nominations, but I've already blocked out everything to do with the Golden Globes in 2024. I know that all the obvious contenders essentially won, though.
Uh,
All right, Hans is pulling this up, and join us over at patreon.com/lowres if you would like the video version of this episode.
where do I see this website? Sucks.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to the actual Golden Globes website. I mean, it'll probably just be on Wikipedia. They're going to dress it up. Yeah, the Brutalist won, Amelia Perez won. Okay, so hold on. We
This is
can
the
just stay
list.
right here.
Yeah.
Honora, Challengers, The Substance, Wicked, A Real Pain, and Amelia Perez. And they gave it to Amelia Perez.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Also, have you noticed how Zoe Saldana now is Zoe Saldana?
Oh,
She
yeah.
changed her name to because now she's Latin. It's like, all right,
She
okay.
put that Taco Bell swirl above the
Yeah.
N in her name. Now
Yeah.
she's cultured, you know.
Is this the
Flo
one
wins
that
Best Motion Picture for
that's
animated.
the what's that Asian Miyazaki movie, right?
Miyazaki.
Yeah, isn't that what
Can you
this
order
is?
that on the Chinese Costa Rican menu?
This is Mumky's favorite movie.
This beat Mass State Lottery. And by the way, you guys can go listen to the Is It Kino review of Mass State Lottery, but I'll give you a warning. Spoilers galore. Well, maybe not galore, but there's definitely some big movie spoilers in that if you listen to it. If you care about that sort of thing. Now, frankly, I don't mind spoilers for the most part. They do ruin parts of the movie, but it's good to know what you're getting into if you're thinking about gambling $40 of your money on a night out at the theater. That's my logic anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, back in the year 2000, I didn't gamble anything at all. Now I'm a gambling addict. But my mother certainly gambled her hard earned $11 to get a movie ticket to go see one Pokemon the Movie 2000, which, yes, I purchased a Japanese VHS of Pokemon the Movie 2000. Only people on patreon.com/lowres can see this, that I've bought for $10 from Japan. Somebody sent this from Japan for $10. This is the kind of thing I do when I get money.
Is that the? This is why you do crypto, so you can
Yes,
purchase
this is why I
VHS.
do crypto, to afford my stupid hobby habit of buying movies that I probably won't even pop into the VCR. But I just thought, 9-year-old me would have killed people to get his hands on this before it hit theaters.
Did you
And now
see
I
the?
have it.
Did you see the ethnic one that I sent you?
No.
I s-
Oh, yes, the SNCC
yeah, 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 yeah.
Etsy one. When I run out of archive.org uploads, which I'm very close to, then I'm going to have to start paying money to get the good stuff, to get my fix.
Well, you get two things I noticed on Etsy. You get the ones where it's only like someone recorded 2 hours of ethnic segment, so they have like Christmas and like a specific date or whatever, but they don't do any type of personalizing. It's just like a tape with written, right?
Yeah.
But then this one that I sent you, like they even did like a orange box and everything, and it has like a really nice packaging and everything. So I was thinking about getting one. I don't even have a VHS just because of how well packaged it is. And they have a bunch of those SNCC ones, so that's cool. I don't know if they're official. I don't know if this is coming from Nickelodeon or
They're
not.
definitely not
But,
official. No,
well, if
there's
it's
no way
not,
that they would do that.
yeah, at least you have someone that's like putting effort into making something like this instead of just doing what the other people do with just writing on the tape.
Yes, totally. I do appreciate that. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now for anyone who wants to take a look. This Etsy seller should be sponsoring us. Frankly, we've given them such a plug by emphasizing their SNCC VHS tapes. That is such a niche audience too, of me and like three other 40-year-old men. Here we
Yeah,
are.
here
We're
it
taking
is.
a look at it. Low in stock, only two left. Damn, I better get my hands on it quick.
So you get a Clarissa Explains It All segment or episode, I guess. You get a Roundhouse, whatever that
Roundhouse.
is.
Oh
Ren,
yeah,
Ren and Stimpy, Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's 2 hours.
amazing.
October 30th, 1993. And they also have a bunch of different versions. They have like a Christmas one. Uh,
Okay.
what is this? Best of Nicktoons,
The best of
1998.
Nicktoons. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, bad, but you see that this is the other side of it,
This
which
is
is
this is
like,
the classic
yeah,
home console center. Grandpa recorded the VCR all day videotape. Okay.
yeah.
So none of these will be on my list for the top 10 of the year, unfortunately. Although I am kind of dressed like a 90s guy right now with the way my hair is and this flannel that I'm wearing because it's very cold in New York. We're hitting record low we're not hitting record low temperatures, but it certainly feels like it. I'm not prepared for the 25-degree days that we're suffering at the moment. And it must be snowing on your end of things to be dressed up in that very handsome Wonder Bread hooded sweatshirt, which you can buy at lowres.org right now with your hard earned money.
Yeah, it's very chilly over here. We're at 66 degrees. I'm fucking freezing. It's so
You
cold.
literally were shivering during the last shoot when it was like 75 out. So that's probably not even a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm wearing. This thick, very comfortable hoodie that you can see here that I'm caressing
It's
this
not that
time. We can
thick,
get
it's actually pretty thin.
it's
But that's the type of hoodie it is. You don't want the thick hoodie. The thick hoodie would be probably the Comfort System's winter
yeah,
hoodie that's
right.
there.
It's
That's,
soft. It's very
yes.
soft, very comfortable, very stylish.
This one I would recommend wearing instead of like a long sleeve t shirt or something. It's more meant to be worn in that fashion. But, we were just talking about SNCC and we were talking about Roundhouse. That actually brings me to my number 10 for the year 2024, Roadhouse, the Doug
Oh
Liman
wow.
film. What a treat this movie Roadhouse was. Caught me off guard. People were talking, "Oh, this is so horrible. It has nothing to do with the original Roadhouse. There's none of the energy or spirit of the original Roadhouse in this movie." And I was like, "Okay, well, I've never seen that Roadhouse. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll go watch it or something at some point." And I did try to start to watch it. Maybe I did watch the whole thing And I was just like, "Pah, this is nothing compared to the 2024 Roadhouse." Now, Roadhouse is not a smart movie.
No.
It's not even especially well made, but it was a great viewing experience. It's a lot of fun. And Doug Lyman did some interesting things with the fight scenes where he's CGing a person's fist to meet the other person's face. And you don't see that type of intricacy on a CG level when it comes to these fight scenes. I watched some clip that went around of a car fight scene from this movie Carry On, which maybe you've seen this as well. People were saying, oh, the fight scene in the car in Mass State Lottery is actually a hell of a lot better than this. That's not my wording. Multiple people tweeted that. So thank you to those people. But I watched that, and the dumb girl who quote tweeted
Oh,
my past lives review and tried to make a mockery of that when it's completely valid
yeah.
was also the person who posted that car fight scene. Was like, oh my god, how did they do this?
Of course,
And it's
it's
like
just a
they did it with a
dumbass.
computer, you idiot. They're fucking, here's what they're doing. This is what the actors are doing. You can't see it if you're only listening to the show on Spotify, but I'm rocking back and forth in my chair. That's what they're doing. They're
Yeah.
that's the fight scene. And then everybody in India helps out with, we're gonna make it the car drive this way, and then that happens, and then there's a fake CG gun that's actually like a blue pole they're passing around, and get
Yeah.
whatever.
You know what CG we used in Mass State Lottery? Nothing. Smashed Loris's face into the into the wheel like 3 times in one take, and I was like, "Oh, that works." So I just
Uh-huh.
continued doing that for every take.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no CG. There's no faking this. I remember just us being like, if we want this to look real, we're gonna have to just do it. And I think at first, like the first take, we were a little cautious, and then we're like, ah, fuck it.
Which is not true, by the way. You could very easily fake a fight scene and not make contact and have it look real. But at the time, we didn't stage the choreography of the
Yeah.
fight scene. It was a very run and gun decision because we're like, maybe we should have did a dry run on this. Maybe we should have put one day aside. But the shooting time that was allowed to us was so limited because
Yeah.
everybody had to just get back to their lives and their schedules, that if we did have a day where it was like, okay, here's a warm up day where we're just going to practice a couple of things and not practice a half hour before we actually start shooting, we would have wound up losing momentum and time, and there was no way to do that. So we had to figure out what the choreography of the fight scene was going to be as we were performing it and just use every piece of the beast, so to speak, and see, okay, well, whatever we can't use, we just won't use. And whatever's there that's good, we'll throw it in and we'll make it work. And I think we made it work pretty decent.
Yeah. Especially for such a cramped space and like no experience doing any stuff like that. I think it looks really good.
Yes, it's no Roadhouse, to be
Yeah.
clear.
Well,
Roadhouse has some of the biggest and best and most bombastic fight sequences you'll find in a movie this year. They're not real. They don't really even look that real. But I enjoyed this movie a hell of a lot, and I enjoyed it even more as I rewatched it. Roadhouse, it's on Amazon Prime. I know Doug Lyman was a little bitter that the movie didn't go to theaters. Understandable, but it's really the perfect streaming movie. You can't ask for more with this Roadhouse film. Jake Gyllenhaal doesn't give a shit about the movie. You can tell he's just there for the paycheck. He showed up, but he's not bad or anything. But nothing's really required of him. He plays a bouncer. He doesn't have much of a backstory. That's fine. That's all fine. Conor McGregor is the antagonist of the film. The dude has great screen presence. He brings back what it feels like to have movie stars in your movies, even without being a movie star. But he owns the film,
yeah.
and he's such a blast in it. But that's my number 10 for the year. Now, you have 8 selections, right? You don't have a solid top 10.
No, I did like Roadhouse, and I did like the reaction to it too because it uh it created this narrative of people thinking that or saying that the 80s Roadhouse is a great movie when it's really not, where it's really just like a dumb 80s movie in every way that you can think of. So I like the fact that a lot of the reaction was like, how dare you remake this classic? And it's like, you obviously have not seen that classic in a long time because this is
Really
not a
stretching that
classic.
word, classic.
Yeah, yeah, it's a classic just because it's old, not because it's good. But this one was just, yeah, like you said, it's just dumb fun. I think that some of the fighting is it's fun, but it's also a very quick movie. It doesn't overstay its welcome because it shouldn't. Like that type of movie should not. And I think this movie does a really good job of just coming in, it's fun, dumb, and that's it. And it ends, and that's why you get an hour and a half. So I agree with your pick there. It's not on mine, but I agree with it, with this one being one of the top of the year.
My number nine, so I'll knock out two, and then we can pick up with your number eight,
Yeah.
is going to be a film I only watched recently. I got a screener of this from Ryan Jackson. It is Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cloud from the fourth quarter of 2024. And I'm not all that familiar with Kiyoshi Kurosawa. He's directed something like almost 70 movies. What he's probably best known for is Cure,
Mm.
the Japanese thriller from the late 90s. This is about a man who's essentially an eBay reseller who compiles a list of enemies through just being an eBay reseller. People getting pissed off at him for not living his life in accordance to what they would want of him. So, like a former employer, he makes a lot of money off of reselling these bags at one point, and he quits his job because he makes what would probably wind up being hundreds of thousands of dollars in yen. Okay. And his boss doesn't want him to quit. So now his boss is one enemy. And then he brings a girl with him to move outside of Tokyo to live in like a nice looking home by the woods. And she gets bored. She's bored of him. Okay, well then that's another enemy because she beats it. She scrams. And then you have these people who bought these bags off of him, resold, and they turn out to be fake bags. Well, now they're pissed off. Those are more enemies. And so, through just living his life as a seller, he has so many enemies. And I was like, God damn, this feels like my life. This feels like my last year. It's like, how many enemies can I accumulate from just doing what I've been doing? And the answer is yeah, a few.
A couple, yeah.
Yeah. And Cloud, I think, it starts off so small stakes and micro and then evolves into this completely unnecessary second half where these people get together and are like, yeah, we fucking hate this guy. Let's kill him. Why don't we kill him? Why don't we show up at his home and kill him? Okay. And then they try to do that. And it's a terrific movie, Cloud. I don't know when it's going to get US distribution. I'm sure it will probably be considered a 2025 film for many people, but that is my number 9 for the year. What is your number 8 film, Hans?
Why does that sound that title sounds very familiar? Are you sure it's not? Oh yeah, it's not. Okay, never mind. It's like I feel like I've seen that title before, so I was checking to see if it's on YTS, but
Well,
it's
it's a
not.
very common word in general.
Yeah.
You look up in the sky.
All right. My number eight is a movie that you mentioned already, and that was Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Wow. I was
Yes.
wondering if we were going to have a superhero film, a comic book film on the list, and the answer is yes.
Well, this is the first time in ever, I think. I don't think I've ever put anything like that in any of my lists because
At least not for the last couple of years when we've done these year end countdowns. I don't think there have been any superhero films.
no, because the last one I enjoyed was probably what Guardians 1, which was like 2010 or something like that.
Yeah, 2013, 12.
Yeah. I just think that I mean, this movie, this is not going to be the norm. Like, I doubt they're going to go all the way with this type of humor and this type of movie, but it felt fresh. It felt different because of how shit these movies have been. And I'm not saying this is a masterpiece. I'm not saying this is a, an amazing movie, but I saw it in the theater. I laughed. I enjoyed myself. I thought that it went back to that type of offensive comedy that they don't really do much anymore. And with how uh, progressive and like self righteous the superhero genre has become, I felt like this was like a nice change of pace and showing that you can do more with that genre than just lecture people, which is what they've been trying to do, at least Marvel. And Yeah, like I said, I didn't see many 2024 movies, but this one was a fun theater experience, and I enjoyed myself. Now, I'm sure they're gonna do a second one, and it's not gonna be as good as the first one, just like they did with Deadpool when the second one came out, and it was like, oh, cool, the same movie again. And then they did it PG because they needed to milk that franchise as much as they could. But as a change of pace, as like a different superhero movie or a different movie in that genre, I thought it was good and I enjoyed myself with this one.
Now, have we already lost the audience's faith and our credibility by kicking our list off with Deadpool and Wolverine and Roadhouse?
I mean, I think they should expect
Expect the unexpected. That's
yeah,
what I would always
picks
say.
of the left field. I My number one pick was Cemetery Man from my other list. I don't think many people were expecting that one, right? So I feel like you'll get that from us. You're not gonna get the typical Vulture or Variety top 10 list or whatever. No, we're gonna throw you a couple of odd ones there and
Yeah, gonna
justify
throw a
them.
curveball.
Yeah.
Exactly. My number eight couldn't be more opposite of your number eight. My number eight is The Brutalist from Brady Corbet. And he's such an annoyance anytime he speaks. He really is one of the stupidest directors. But I think The Brutalist is a great showcase of how dumb observations can create great art. You don't have to be a smart person or a smart person at XYZ topic to be brilliant at this other thing over here. Because I think the way that much of this works is if you're smart, if you're really good at something, if you're a master craftsman, that energy it takes to become that has to come from somewhere else. You have to make conveniences elsewhere in order to be good at one particular thing. If you're going to be an amazing basketball player, you're probably not going to be the best mathematician as well. And that's just how it is. So Brady Corbet made a very good movie with The Brutalist. A lot of people have been feeling alienated by one particular moment in this movie. Have you heard about this at all?
I
It's
know
kind
no,
of a Joker 2 type vibe, as a matter of fact.
I know about this.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, we got a technical malfunction on Hans's end. I think his cat puked on the microphone, short-circuited something.
Piece of shit unplugged the cable from the computer. He's like, shh. I know nothing about The Brutalist. I think you've told me what the movie's about. I have zero recollection. So I'm gonna go in completely fresh and like not don't even know what the movie's about. So no, what do they
Well,
do? Do they do a blurry off-screen kill where it's like, oh, it's like they did with Joker, where the guy
I mean,
gets
how much you want me to get into this? We will do a show at some point, I think, with DC talking about this movie because I have a feeling he's going to hate it.
well, I think let's save it because the movie is barely out, right? So maybe let's not spoil
Oh,
that.
okay, okay. Well, I'll give you the basic bullet points you can find on Wikipedia or
Yeah.
IMDb, which is it's about an architect from Budapest named Laszlo Toth, who's played by Adrian Brody, who comes to America to escape persecution against the Jews. And he has to leave his wife behind and their niece, who they were taking care of, or she was taking care of specifically. And he gets a job with his cousin and works for his cousin in Pennsylvania. And his cousin kind of winds up being a piece of shit. And he winds up working for Guy Pearce's character, who's this man named Harrison Van Buren, who's an old money elite and lives in this enormous castle in a very conservative Christian town. And he wants to build a memorial to his mother. He loves his mother. And this character is, I think, so funny. So fun. I was laughing throughout the movie at this character's lines. He's very Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood. Guy Pearce's performance is so enjoyable here.
Really? Okay.
And then there's a turn that is taken in the second part of the movie. It's divided into two parts, and there's an intermission. It was so long. I saw this movie at 8:45. I didn't get out of the theater until almost 1 in the morning. It ended at 12:50 something because you have to account for, all right, well, the movie is going to start kind of late because there's
30
trailers.
minutes. Yeah.
Then there's an intermission that lasted 15 minutes right at the center of the movie. But it was a great time. I really enjoyed The Brutalist. It's very well made. The score is terrific. The performances are stellar. And I'll echo the sentiment that everybody else had, which is that part one is almost like its own movie, and that alone would probably be in my top 10. That's great, wonderful. Felt very good at the intermission, and then the second movie takes a turn of focus onto Laszlo's wife. I mean, not it's divided between Laszlo and Iserbit, his wife, played by Felicity Jones. I couldn't remember her name off the top of my head there. And she's not as compelling of a character, though she's fine. And it culminates into a very unexpected ending that turned people off. But there are very clear signs of
He
what.
becomes a guard in the Holocaust. Is that what
Yes, he goes
happens?
back to the Holocaust to be a guard. They resume the Holocaust in 1979. That's what happens. But yes, The Brutalist is my number 8 for the year. What is your number 7?
My number 7 is another movie that you mentioned already. It is Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. I was very surprised by this movie because I really thought that Tim Burton had lost it already. I don't think I've enjoyed one of his movies since.
Oh boy,
Oh
this one
fuck.
might be tough. Well, hey,
Uh,
you marinate on that. Now I can't do my typical thing of turning my webcam off to disappear, but I've had too many coffees, so please
okay.
tell the audience why Beetlejuice did it for you,
Okay.
and I'll be back in just one moment.
All right, go piss. I think the last Tim Burton movie that I enjoyed was probably Sweeney Todd. We're talking about 2007. Frank and Winnie was fine, but I remembered whatever memory I have of Frank and Winnie, I can't tell you if it's the movie or the short. So I guess that tells you how much that movie had an effect on me. But the last full movie that I remember enjoying was, yeah, Sweeney Todd. That's 2007. So I really thought that he was done doing this type of what feels like I don't know what the budget is. It does look more expensive than the what 89, 88 one. Obviously, new technology and everything. But I just thought that he went back, or he felt like he was going back to the things that he did in his early movies, where it felt like he actually cared for it, like where he felt like he was putting creative artistic effort into trying to make this movie good, as opposed to most of the movies that he's made recently, where he just kind of feels like a paycheck, where his style is barely there, where his weird creepiness or like these weird creepy characters are kind of there, but everything is just very mid, like not as intense as they usually are, and not as out there as they usually are. So I really enjoyed the fact that we went back to. By the way, you didn't mute your microphone, so we just heard
I
you.
know, yeah, no,
We just
I know.
heard.
I'm gonna have to. No, you didn't hear nothing because guess what? We're
All
not
right.
doing this live, so
Oh
it
yeah,
all
you're
got
right.
cut out. I'm sure there's some splashy sounds that might have been heard or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no, not even that. Just the chair. Just now, it just came in. Like I heard ice, and then I just heard just.
Oh, that's Foley noise. We add that in
Yeah.
post. That's all sound effects. What are you talking
Uh,
about? Jeffrey Jones
no.
again?
Well, I was saying that I really like how he went back to going all out with his weird characters, which I don't think he did enough of on the other movies that I've seen recently because they just kind of feel like a paycheck.
Yeah,
This one, I like that he went back to his weird. I care about this project, or at least it felt like he did, and you can tell that there's more passion into something like this than in fucking Dumbo. Even though I didn't hate Dumbo, but like you can tell that this is just Disney paying him. It's not really a Tim Burton movie. I like the way that the Beetlejuice backstory was shot. because it kind of reminded me of those Universal monster movies from the early 40s and 30s, where you have like a simple set and the look of it. I really enjoyed that. I don't care for that Jenna Ortega girl. I feel like she's usually miscast. I think they're trying to make her into this Aubrey Plaza clone, but she doesn't really have that attitude. I think every time she tries to portray that character, it comes off as like not genuine. So that was a bit of a bother, but at the same time, she's not as big of a character as I thought she would be because of how she's everywhere now. So that was good. I enjoyed how old everyone is. It kind of reminded me to how fucking old I am because when that movie came out, I was only 3 years old, and now it's like
I
fuck.
thought you were going to say you were 15 years old when Beetlejuice came out in
No.
1988.
I like the weirdness of characters like the Monica Bellucci character that is very reminiscent of like a not Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare Before Christmas
Hmm.
character. And again, weird Tim
Oh yeah, I
Burton
guess she does have
claymation.
Sally vibes to
Yeah,
her, huh? I didn't think about that.
and just the weird Tim Burton putting effort into side characters into little sequences like whenever they're waiting to be attended in hell or the afterlife or whatever, like all those little moments that are in his early movies that I think he's lost on his recent ones, they're all here. So that's why I feel
Hmm.
like this movie feels like it's back to like an actual Tim Burton movie, which I enjoy, as opposed to a soulless, just a Disney cash grab.
Absolutely. Beetlejuice was definitely one of my favorite theater outings this year. I'll actually have a Substack article called A Year in Theater Outings, where I detailed every single one of my trips to the cinema this year. That'll be out at jcorellis.substack.com. It's impossible to promote Substack on X because they suppress the links
Oh,
because
that's
Elon had a feud with whoever who runs Substack. So if you ever post a Substack link and then you look at your view counter, good luck getting to 2 digits, even if you have thousands of followers. It ain't going to make a goddamn difference. So good selection here. My number 7 for the year, and let me know if my audio changes here at all because I have to do this and my cord is a little fucky. Do we sound okay, Hans?
yeah.
Okay, good. My number 7 for the year is a little movie that coasted under the radar, and I watched it right after Christmas called Small Things Like These from director Tim Milance. Now, I saw trailers to this movie, I believe, at the start of the year in front of Poor Things or Kinds of Kindness, and
Mm.
it was this low key Killian Murphy Irish film that takes place during Christmas time. And I'll just give you the quick synopsis here. In 1985, while working on as a coal merchant to support his family, Bill Furlong discovers disturbing secrets kept by the local covenant and uncovers truths of his own, forcing him to confront his past and the complicit silence of a small Irish town controlled by the Catholic Church. Now, the evil Catholic Church movies are kind of, they don't, it feels very old news at this point. Conclave, small things like these,
Mm.
Spotlight, they're always up to something, that dastardly Catholic Church. It's just like, all
Yeah.
right, well, what about the good shit? Remember the good shit that we used to show up to church for? I mean, I never showed up to church, but you probably did.
I used to, yeah. When
You're
I
in
was a
Latin
young
America, so.
Yeah, when I was a young lad, I remember me and my neighborhood friends were like, "Let's go to church." And I remember just trying to make it a thing just because everyone was doing it and I was like, I don't know, fucking 14, 15. And but I just remember that I was always so bored. I was always just kind of like this kind of sucks and just like falling asleep. So I was never uh into that stuff. And I
You weren't a big
also
church head.
no, and I remember one day, because we would fly to Mexico every December to visit family, and I remember that one time, because my parents would be like, remember to pray before the plane leaves so that, we don't crash or whatever. And then one day when I was like 12, I was like, what if I don't pray? what would
And then
happen
the
if I
plane
don't?
crashed and the family died.
Well, then nothing happened. And I was like, well, I don't have to pray and be afraid of anything happening then. Okay. Because I feel like that's how, at least in Latin America, that's how they try to shove religion into you with fear. So we get during Holy Week, which is this couple of weeks in, or 1 week in April, I think it is, which is supposed to show the whenever Jesus was caught and killed and resurrects or whatever. That whole week would be every local channel would be playing old Bible movies that used to terrify me as a kid because they would show like I guess the simple life of those times, and that shit was
Uh,
scary to me. I was like, "There's no toilet." I was
you're
like, "What
scared
do
of
you?"
the
There's no.
goats?
There's like, there's no blankets in that bed. What the fuck? I have to sleep next to a goat. That sucks. And everything was like a weird dungeon and all those shitty old sets. So that used to terrify me. So like thinking back, like religion, they used to just scare you with, if you're afraid of anything, God and pray and this, even if it's something that has nothing to do. Oh, you have an exam tomorrow, you have to pray, otherwise you're gonna fail. And then as soon as I started realizing with my experimentation that it doesn't really change anything, that I was not, sucked into that. But then my friends did go to church, so I would just go because I would just be like, well, I guess we're hanging out, then we'll go, and then I would just sit there and be bored. So I'm a terrible Latin American
It
Catholic
is
person.
boring. I mean, look, I
It
haven't
is.
been to church in several years, but I remember the same exact experience. I would be bored as hell just
Yeah.
waiting to get molested in the pews. It's not something you would want to do as a young man. But small things like these, I
Uh-huh.
think, is a very terrific, well made movie. It's a small movie, and it's just a movie about Killian Murphy looking very intense and stressed out, which is what he's best at, especially these days, and then doing a good thing around Christmas time. And there's something about like 1980s UK Christmas that is just a very particular vibe that responds well with myself. So, small things like these, I recommend it if you can find it. I think it might be on Amazon Prime or something at this point. The trailers in the theater when I saw it first come up looked so appealing. I was like, oh, wow, this could be a contender for another best movie of the year for Killian Murphy. But then it just evaporated. Nothing happened with it. Nobody saw the movie. Nobody discussed the movie. And it's a great movie. It's a very solid movie. So I would highly recommend small things like these. That is my number 7. What is your number 6 for the year, Hans?
My number six is an Australian movie called Audrey, that I found on YTS by mistake. Well, not by mistake. I just saw it. The poster is horrible. If you look at
Can you
the
show us a poster real quick?
synopsis, yeah. If you look at the synopsis, the poster. If you
Oh,
look at the synopsis, it sounds interesting. So synopsis here, it says self-appointed mother of the year, Ronnie has given her daughter Audrey everything. So when Audrey selfishly falls into a coma, she has no choice but keep their dreams alive by assuming her identity. So this movie is about a mom that's obsessed with her daughter becoming an actress. And her daughter is just a bitch, just like a treats her mom like a bitch, and she's just not
who's the cripple in the movie?
the other daughter. So she has two daughters. One of them is a cripple, who she ignores because, of course, because she's not pretty and she's not gonna make her money. Like this is, and one of the reasons why I enjoy this movie is because everyone's a piece of shit. Like every character is just bad, which is rare, to see. But so then, at one point, she's having an argument with her daughter, with the sane, well, the I guess healthy one. She goes up in the roof and then she falls and falls into a coma. But because the mom has invested so much money into like acting lessons and like all these things, uh, she's supposed to uh, she's supposed to sign up for college and she's supposed to go into acting classes with this amazing acting coach, right? But her daughter's in a coma, so the whole thing is about her being like, "Oh, but we'll tell him tomorrow that she'll be there," because like expecting that the coma will not be a thing. And what happens is that she pretends to be her daughter just so that she doesn't lose the opportunity. So that you have this 40-something-year-old woman acting or trying to act like what she thinks a 14, 15, 16-year-old acts like, which is really funny. And then uh, there's just a lot of interactions in that family dynamic that are really funny. The dad, he's very closeted, right? But
Like a
uh
closeted gay man.
yeah, like really closeted, really gay, and he goes to AA or like something like that, and starts like having like a weird bromance with this guy, and then at some point they just like fuck, right? And then the way that they deal with that and how the family finds out and how nobody gives a shit because they're dealing with the coma thing, and then it's like, well, I guess that is just gay now. Like it deals with everything in such a everyone is such a piece of shit that okay, so there's a scene where the daughter that's in a wheelchair, she writes a suicide letter in the name of her sister so that she can go into her room to try to kill her at night. So it's like that type of, when the sister's in a coma, the sister's boyfriend comes and starts flirting with the girl in the wheelchair and like makes out
Uh-huh.
with her, right? And then when the girl wakes up, then the boyfriend accuses her of like raping him, even though she like gave him a blowjob. So like it takes a lot of left field decisions that take you completely off guard and that are really funny. Now, the second half of the movie does kind of dwindle a little bit, but I think there's enough here, enough humor and enough obscene and out there humor that it made it a very funny watch for me and yeah, so it's called Audrey. Um,
Okay, I'm gonna have to take a look at that. Although the poster art is definitely off-putting, you were right about that. It's a
it's
little
horrendous,
too
yeah.
colorful, first of all, and just I don't know, very foreign. You know, that's like how you would sell something to somebody in Poland who would be watching. That's what their movies look like when they were promoting them at the theater. So Audrey is his number
Yeah.
seven. Take note. My number six of the year is Eggy's number one movie of the year, Megalopolis. Megalopolis is one of the biggest conversation pieces to come out of 2024, and I almost appreciate it on those grounds alone. Everybody who has watched Megalopolis has had something to say about Megalopolis, whether it's been positive, negative, confused, or somewhere in between. And we did 2 episodes or maybe 3 episodes on Megalopolis, and there's probably going to be more to come because the movie is just startling as a piece of art. And that is a terrific thing. And I enjoyed it. I had a great time watching the movie in IMAX at the Kips Bay Theater, AMC, the only time I've been there. Great time out at the movies, Megalopolis. Go listen to our 2 episodes on it. One I did solo, and one was a debate we held between George Dahl of Film Journal and Darius DC Cheeky of DariusCheeky.com and the Eight Plates podcast, which, by the way,
Yeah.
I listened to his interview with Jake Hanrahan, and it was just like, wow, these two people with such distinct personalities coming together to talk about how great my movie is. Mass State Lottery coming soon.
Oh,
So thank you, fellas.
is that what that episode is about?
Yes, it's 40 minutes of them talking about how great Mass State Lottery is. No, it was right at the end that they got into
Uh-huh.
the movie.
Oh, I was gonna say that you almost made me listen to DC's podcast. I'm kidding.
Ooh,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
ooh.
kidding, DC. Don't fucking write me 3 paragraphs about how your feelings are hurt. I'm kidding. I haven't listened to your show maybe a couple of other times. I don't listen to anything, but yeah.
Name one
Uh,
episode of DC's show.
the one where we're on, the couple of times we've been on. But I don't listen to fucking anything anyway. That was my number six, by the way.
That was your number six?
Yeah, that was my six. Your six. So
Okay,
that was
6 and 6.
my five. Yeah.
Okay, you're number five for the year. Wow, we're already on the top five. We're coasting through this episode, it seems like. Maybe not. Go ahead.
Yeah, my five is. I think you mentioned it already too. Shake Shack, Snack Shack,
Shake Shack
Shake
sounds
Shack.
great tonight. I saw you were looking
It's
at
hungry.
Uber
Yeah.
Eats and you were thinking about Coodad Bonita for dinner.
Yeah. Shake.
I love eating at Coodad Bonita.
What? See you that bonita? Yeah. Yes, that's Pretty City, by the way. It's a Chinese restaurant. Snack Shack. Did you mentioned it right on the last
I
episode?
did. It
Yeah,
was in
yeah.
my top 10 up until a couple of days ago when I watched Cloud. I had to give Snack Shack the boot just because I thought, all right, this movie's. I enjoyed Snack Shack a
Mhm.
hell of a lot. It's a good throwback. But why isn't it your number five for the year?
It just again felt like a product of a different time. When this types of Richard Linklater like coming of age movies with a
Hmm.
little bit of because this felt like a Linklater with a little bit of Apatow before it becomes obnoxious and annoying because it did have a little bit of that type of humor, but not to the point where it becomes just that. And The movie had a lot of more depth that I was expecting from a coming of age movie with these two teenagers that open a little business there. I like the look of it, and I think it felt authentic to the setting and the time that it was supposed to be on. I thought the performances from those teenagers that I'm sure are 25 were really good. So that one was a surprise for me. I think the poster looks like the type of movie that I don't want to watch, which is just movies that are passed as comedies that are not funny. They're just wholesome.
Yeah.
And I thought this might be that, but then I saw that you and a couple of other people whose opinions I trust gave it positive reviews. So I thought I'd give it a shot, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
I don't even remember why I watched Snack Shack. I threw it up on the TV from 123 Movies, or the Costa Rican Theater, as we haven't called it for a while. And maybe it was, I can't remember. I feel like somebody I knew. Oh, Omar Salas Zamora, who's a filmmaker, watched the movie, logged it on Letterbox, and I was like, hmm, all right. I'm at least familiar with one thing that's readily available from 2024. I haven't seen too many movies thus far this year. Why don't I just throw that on and see what it's about? And it was a pleasant surprise. It was, to what you said, I think comparing it to a Richard Linklater film is apt. I didn't make that comparison myself while watching it or afterward, but I can totally see how that would align. And it's a simple movie. It features the actor Gabriel LaBelle, who people might know from The Fablemans last year, which was one of the better movies that Steven Spielberg has put out in a while. He plays Lauren Michaels in Saturday Night. So, yeah, he's playing 15 here, and then suddenly he's Lauren Michaels in Saturday Night in the same year. But all the same, he does a terrific job, and the director is Adam Raymer, who directed a movie called Dinner in America, which people really seem to like, and I have not watched that. And he's one of these guys who kind of reminds me of Joel Potrykus, where he's just living out in the Midwest or wherever the hell he is. Doesn't really care about moving to Hollywood or working in New York and doing that sort of thing. Just keeping things simple on a budget and using available resources. But also, he gets real talent,
Mm.
like this kid, Gabriel LaBelle. So I enjoyed Snack Shack as well. I think it's very worthy. Number five. My number five is a film we have discussed before on the show. It is Ali Abbasi's The Apprentice. Now, when I watched The Apprentice again a second time, I think I might have checked it out on the day before election night or in the run up to the episode we covered after having watched it in theaters. My opinion of it only improved at home,
Mhm.
where the more visually jarring elements of doing this fake video filter for the second half of the movie I thought played better on a TV than at a theater. I remember you voicing, nah, it didn't play well for me at all. I didn't like that. I could tell it was fake or whatever. But trust me when I say on the theater screen, it looked really bad. It looked really fake. All the same, it's a great movie with two great performances from Jeremy Strong as Roy Cohn and Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump. And then we also cannot forget the performance from Martin Donovan as Fred Trump, who was transformative in this, just all the same as those two guys. Great job from everybody all around. The Apprentice is my number five for the year
Well,
2024.
Yeah, let me expand on it because that's my four. Uh, so
Perfect.
uh, yeah, I think something that I was very impressed with, and I keep saying nice things about Sebastian Stan, but I was not expecting those two performances that I liked from him this year or last year. The way that Trump speech patterns evolve throughout the movie and how it's never the same. Like the way that he speaks is not the same, which makes sense because that's how people age. But
Hmm.
there's a lot of attention to detail when it comes to that, because you see young Trump, and young Trump sounds different than 40-year-old Trump. That sounds different than 50-year-old Trump. That
Yeah.
older Trump, and that's so impressive because he's been on the public eye for so long, so we've heard this change, and he does such a great job at, even though at first you think, okay, so this is like a heartthrob, like a Hollywood heartthrob is gonna look like Donald Trump. At first, it's a little okay, so he doesn't actually look like that. But then he gives such a great performance, and especially with little details like that I just mentioned, that you just believe it, even though he
Hmm.
doesn't exactly look like Trump. But then you're just like, yeah, that's Trump. Like he's so good at giving this performance that. I guess everything that I usually find annoying about actors, which is like, I hope he's not that type of annoying actor, but like all the attention to detail and all the little details that he puts into this performance makes this movie. I think I do like Jeremy Strong a lot. I think he's great in it, especially after playing the role on that TV show. What's it called? In
Succession.
Succession, yeah, where he's revived his career, I guess. This is another great step, I think, and another great performance. And he was like you said, the other standout in this film. I was very surprised because I'm not a huge fan of politicians to begin with, but I think the portrayal going from young Trump to like monster Trump, which is kind of how he ends up. Uh, I think it's very accurate and respectful in a way, even though I saw some of the backlash that the movie had, where it was like, of course, a movie like this coming out of an election year or whatever, trying to make him look bad. I,
It's more nuanced than that for sure.
yeah,
I mean, you can see that there's little hints, little inclinations of the screenwriter putting in Easter eggs that would only make sense to people from blue Twitter back in 2017 or 2018. And those are the worst. And there's not that many of them.
no,
They didn't make it too obvious because Ali Abbasi is a good director and knows where to tone it down and step away from that and just treat the subject like it is a story without the modern context or having any sense of social response. You can't normalize this man, this man who was on television for fucking 10 years right before on The Apprentice and was a number one show. Come on, get real. Most popular president of all time,
yeah,
probably, besides
yeah,
Joe Biden.
hmm
We all love Joe Biden.
yeah,
We
800
all
million
love
votes.
Joe. Who wouldn't
Yeah,
want to go eat ice cream with Joe?
yeah. Uh, little
I would. It would be fun to
shield,
feed him ice cream, like a little
shield.
plane going into his mouth.
It's a drone, Joe.
Oh
Open.
man. Did you have anything you wanted to add about The Apprentice before we move into my number four?
Um, I think nope. I think that's that. Oh, right. Let me see. The look of it, I think, was the type of seedy story that you're telling, because I feel like the movie at times doesn't know if you're telling the story of this untouchable rich guy or if it's like this dirty businessman that's willing to do whatever he can to get ahead. But then the movie becomes both things, and I think that's one of the strengths of it, because it doesn't really pull to either side. It just kind of just shows you the complexity of this character without pulling many punches, and that's one of the big strengths of it, I think.
I completely agree. And I would say there's only one moment that doesn't feel attached, I guess, to a more nuanced portrayal of Donald Trump. You know, it was a big common trend in movies for 2024. The rape scene,
Yeah.
Revenge of the Rape scene. That's going to be what the year is known as, the return of the rape. And there is certainly, I guess, arguably one. I don't know if I'd consider it one that's found in this movie between Donald and his wife, Ivana Trump, where he just cannot take his hair being made fun of.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Saturday Night Live sketch. He can't take his hair being made fun of, and then proceeds to shove his wife's face through like a table or something, and then holds her down and fucks her. And it's a very violent scene,
It's
but
this Nosferatu thing, right? The Nicholas Holt thing where she's like, "You have a little penis," and he's like, "Oh yeah," and then he fucks her for like 30 seconds. Remember?
yeah, it is very Nosferatu. Two creatures penetrating, you
Yeah.
know. My number four is Caligula: The Ultimate Cut. Caligula, I thought, was a great 1979, 1980 movie by Tinto Brass, Bob Guccione, and it was explosive. It is a great talking point when we look at movie history, what they did with this movie, how certain aspects of it were handled unconventionally, to say the least, the pornographic elements of the film and its success in spite of that, or maybe even because of that. This Caligula, the Ultimate Cut, takes what was one of the most interesting movies ever made and turns it into a very great film. Now, you have to ask yourself, what is the point of taking an interesting movie and turning it into a great movie? It's a fascinating experiment, I'll say that. The writing, the acting, the editing, it's all far superior in Caligula: The Ultimate Cut. The movie's longer, the story is more cohesive. It was a great time at the cinema. I do prefer the original because I think the original is just more important as is, but structurally and just in terms of a viewing experience, Caligula: The Ultimate Cut succeeds on every level, and I do recommend it to anybody who watched that original and liked it, or just is into the Roman Empire and wants to watch it. I saw shades of Caligula in Gladiator 2, and that movie was not nearly as successful or successful, period. So Caligula: The Ultimate Cut got distribution this past year. It was something that had been in the works for several years from an editor who was following Tinto Brass's notes. Tinto Brass has no involvement in the film, and they used a lot of AI to recover aspects of the movie and weed out artifacts that had rendered takes unusable. Kind of a similar story with Mass State Lottery. AI saved the day. So I really enjoyed this film. I think it is certainly worth sitting down and watching. And there's 100% less sex and nudity in it, which you can see that as a good or a bad thing depending on where on the spectrum you may fall. So that is my number four for the year 2024.
Okay. My number three was a movie that you mentioned already. On like I think it was number 14 or something, which is Red Rooms. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna start. I think the way that the movie handles the topic is really interesting because even though it's dealing with a horrendous crime, I think the way that it's shot and the way that the performances come through with a very stoic, very cold main character that is dealing with the horrors of what's being spoken about on the trial in a very disconnected way and to a point it feels like it's you don't know if it's like a sexual thing or like a turn on for her, the fact that she's so interested in this case that includes I guess dark web activity.
Well, what do you
But
make of that? Do you think that's the case?
I don't think the movie represents it that way, but there's definitely something that she's getting out of it. And it might be just the winning because then you have the betting at the end, right? To get the actual horrible child abuse video.
See, I watched that and I took that as her oscillating between both. Like, I think she does get off on it. And I
Right.
also think it's not the present focal perspective that she has on the case and what her objective is. But I also think that's the case with a lot of these weird people
Yeah.
who do, I think one thing that Izakino touched on when reviewing Mass State Lottery is this idea that I was trying to put out there a bit with the film, which is that you kind of need certain types of bad people out there in order to take down worse people because there's more connective tissue. You can understand how a person thinks if you're closer to their realm of things. And you take a look at, I don't know, we'll say the child predator catchers online who talk all day with these pedophiles and pose as
Yeah.
children. It's like you're doing that all day. You're pretending to be a 10-year-old girl all day and you're actually a 41-year-old man.
Yeah.
Now,
Being
I
like, oh,
understand
you're,
the
oh, what do you mean your
yeah,
penis? Oh, what do you mean
yeah,
you suck on my
so
what?
noble to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, it's weird.
But you got to think, why how can you do that? How can you actually commit your whole day and many days to doing that? Is it really just you want to take them down or are you getting a fucking charge off of this? And that's what makes you good at luring these pedophiles. And the answer is the rest of us don't want to know the answer. We
Yeah.
never want to know the answer. We don't want to think about it because the answer might be too fucking dark. And I think Red Rooms does a terrific job of showcasing that, especially in an era where women are obsessed with true crime. They love true crime podcasts and documentaries. It has inundated our culture in such a destructive way where things like Serial, which is a masterpiece of podcasting, resulted in getting potentially a murderer, a non, what's his name, a non Saeed,
Sure. I never listened to it, but yeah.
off the hook and out of prison because the police didn't have as concrete of a case to convict him as they had thought. And after 20 years for killing his Asian girlfriend, they let him go because of this podcast, because of the exploit. Stephen Avery, another instance where that guy fucking did it. And yet, a Netflix documentary emerges after Serial because of the success of Serial, and people start questioning that, and you find out that the documentary omitted
Hmm.
certain facts that would have ended the whole show at episode 1. And it's like this guy absolutely did it. They paint him to be this dumb hillbilly who's harmless and did a couple of bad things, but he wouldn't do that, would he? And the answer is yeah, he would,
Yeah.
and he did.
That's a creep. Yeah. Didn't they fuck up with season two? I never saw season two, but
No, I stopped watching. I stopped watching
yeah.
that. I'm kind of out on true crime in general. It makes me I wouldn't say it makes me sick, but it really makes me think I could be using my time better than not to be a moralist or anything, but you really have to sit and wonder if you're listening to every single episode of a true crime podcast, like how much of my week, of my month, of my year is being dedicated to finding entertainment in other people's
Yeah.
downfalls
Yeah.
and the most extreme misfortune.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, what was the thing?
You're talking about Red Rooms
Oh,
being
Red
your
Rooms,
number
right.
3 for the year.
Right, Red Rooms. I like the dynamic be between the crazy stalker girl and this girl because they're two complete opposites that somehow end up working together
Mm-hmm.
until the young girl is horrified uh by 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 our stoic queen here. I also really like the way that it was shot because uh there was something about the way that the buildings were shot that it just made everything look very claustrophobic and like the movie was trying to like squeeze something out of the character. And a lot of the times where characters were speaking in the middle of the trial, the camera just kept moving to get reactions from other people, and I think that that was also a really great choice because you see how everyone else is interacting with the horrors that are being told, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I just I when it comes to dark subjects like this, when a movie doesn't depend on gore to get your attention and to keep you interested, you need a lot of artistry, I think, and really good performances to pull that off. And I think this movie does that. So
I
that's
was
why.
so worried when we spent lingering time in the in the courtroom, excuse me, not the classroom, at the beginning of the movie that we were in for another Anatomy of a Fall. And Anatomy of a Fall was a movie that was critically well received. The audiences who tuned into it seemed to like it, but I just didn't. I really did not like that movie. And I was so glad when Red Rooms did subvert that. And it was essentially just laying the groundwork for what the movie would become and what it would really be about. And I do think it's one of the most interesting films of the year. Absolutely. It's a great number three pick. My number three is a very different type of movie. It is The Substance from Coralie Fargart. And I was really surprised. Just to be a total misogynist here, I was shocked that a woman directed this movie because it's so damn funny. It's so good and it's so
Mm.
funny. And it feels like a Tim and Eric sketch at the end with everybody pointing, monster. We haven't done an episode on The Substance. We got to do an episode on The Substance, I think, at some point.
Yeah,
And good for Demi Moore for winning Best Supporting Actress or Best whatever she won at the Golden Globes. I think to see a Demi Moore, Dennis Quaid starring film do well in 2024 is an exciting thing. We've got this stable of older actors who are just not being used or they're being sent to the direct to DVD gutter, and they're a hell of a lot better than whatever these new celebrities, these new movie
yeah.
stars that they've tried to groom uh, have. They don't have that pop. They don't have that swagger that the actors from the 80s and the 90s and the 70s had. So let's bring these old folks out and have them headline movies.
That's
I
that's
think The
that's
Substance proves it can work.
that's one of the positives from how Hollywood has moved into trying to create these stars that have no charisma and no acting
So
ability.
inorganic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
compared to the older ones that now these older actors are free to just join more interesting projects like this one. So that's exciting because then all you have to do is just ignore all of those new manufactured actors and then dig a little bit so that you can find what more interesting actors are doing, like
Hmm.
something like this. Because, like you said, a Demi Moore movie with not Randy. What's the Dennis
With
with
Randy,
Dennis with
Randy
Dennis?
Quaid would have felt more at home in this
Yeah,
movie, I think, than Dennis Quaid, which is why it makes his casting all the more interesting.
yeah, and it's such a it's so out there too that even if you get two, let's say, established or recognizable actors like these two, they usually wouldn't take a risk of a movie that's so out there like this one where
Totally.
Demi Moore ends up becoming a fucking blob by the end of it, right? So I mean, I like the fact that they were brave enough to do something like this. I don't know if it's from necessity or not, but it ended up working out a lot better for them than if they were to do, any other
I
whatever
think
for
Dennis Quaid, that might have been of necessity. Demi Moore, I don't believe she needs the money between everything she did in the 80s and 90s and being married to Bruce Willis. Although
well,
if Bruce Willis was in the direct to DVD gutter before
yeah.
his
When I
problem.
when I mean necessity, I don't mean that she needs money. I mean more that no one's casting her anymore.
Right. Oh, well,
So
that's definitely true.
yeah. So
What
that's
was the
that's
last thing with Demi Moore that you can remember?
that I can
Because I'll
remember.
tell you, for
Striptease.
me,
Indecent proposal.
wow. I mean, frankly, for me, the last thing that I remember her being in that was like a big movie was Charlie's Angels 2, where she was already considered the older woman of the cast. And that was
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Oof, Jesus. Yeah, I'm looking at her IMDb. I don't even recognize most of these things. Mr. Brooks, I never saw that. Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, 2003. Never saw that
Yep.
either. But
21 years ago, the old woman of Charlie's Angels.
G.I. Jane. Yeah, I yeah, that of her career is a complete blind spot for me.
Damn, my mom rented GI Jane off pay-per-view, and I just remembered she said something like she was doing push-ups or pull-ups or something. The bad guy was in her platoon. I don't remember how the hell it worked, but I remember she said something like "suck my dick, sir."
Yeah, so
Give
cool.
me That's a Ridley Scott movie. This is why Ridley Scott today is better than Ridley Scott back then.
Come
Ugh.
on, suck my dick, sir.
Oh man. All right.
All right.
Yeah, but The Substance, great movie, and I'll let you move on with your number two for the year.
My number two was one that surprised me. And it's called it's another Sebastian Stan movie. It's called A Different Man. I saw the poster and I was annoyed by it immediately because I thought it was going to be a preachy, oh, this guy's ugly and this guy isn't, and doesn't everyone treat the ugly guy differently than the pretty guy? Again, I'm going into these movies, but knowing very little, right?
Mhm.
So I downloaded it and I was like, well, Sebastian Stan surprised me on The Apprentice. Let's get this. And then the movie was different than what I expected. So the story is about this guy that's the form. There's no other way of putting it. Like his face is all fucked up. I don't know what the disease is. Let me show you. But it's an
You're talking about
actor,
Adam Pearson,
Adam
who's probably
Pearson.
best known otherwise for Under the Skin, the Scarlett Johansson movie that was released in 2013, directed by Jonathan Glazer. Great director. Very good movie. Very visually stunning film.
Yeah, so he's got neurofibromatosis. That I don't know.
Elephantitis, we used to
Yeah,
call it back in the day.
yeah, where he just gets a bunch of tumors on the head.
Benign
And
tumors.
yeah, so this is what. Let me show. I don't know if you can see that on.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is what the character looks like. He's trying to be an actor, but there's not many roles for him looking like that.
Hmm.
Then there's this neighbor that he becomes kind of infatuated with. She's a writer for theater. And they have this very platonic relationship between the two of them. He really likes her, obviously, but you know he's got that face, so that makes it difficult. Then there's this advancement in medicine where they are able to remove or get rid of the tumors on his face with this new treatment. And the way that they do it too is kind of gruesome because at one point, just chunks of his face start falling off,
Oh, they
and
show
then
it?
yeah, and then Sebastian Stan comes out, but and so the movie, that's where the inside an incident is, and then it's like, oh well, now has to deal with life as a good looking guy. You know, he's
Hmm.
still with all his hang-ups and all his trauma and all his everything, his insecurities and everything, but now he's handsome. So then he starts like he has sex with this girl that sucks him off, and he's like, oh my God, what is this, what's happening? You know, like he's experiencing life is as like a new light, as like complete something completely new. Now the girl that's next door doesn't know that he's the same guy because he never tells anyone that he went through this surgery. So he wants to just start a new life as like the pretty guy. And the older guy just left. Like he left and nobody knows, so he's just pretending to be this new person. And when he tries approaching the neighbor, she was writing a play that she wanted him to start in as a deformed person. So the
Hmm.
role is for a deformed person, and he really wants this role because he likes this girl, and they because he's handsome now, they start having like a thing, like a sexual thing or whatever. But then when he gets into the character, she loves him because he's like, oh my God, even though you're very handsome, you're so natural in this role because that's who he is, right? He's the guy. So like the performance is great. He puts on a mask that looks just like him that they gave him at the hospital. So it's like, oh, he's even prepared for that. So everything's perfect until one day when they're doing a rehearsal in this little theater, another guy that's deformed shows up who looks exactly like he used to look like before the surgery. He's British and he's an actor. And he shows up and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I just heard that you needed like a deformed actor for this type of play, so I came to see, but I see that this actor is really good, so I'll just go." So when the girl sees this and he sees that instead of having someone that's wearing a mask, someone that looks like it, she
Mm-hmm.
becomes interested in the guy. So then she goes after him. And then we find out that all of the insecurities that our guy had for being, because he was like deformed, this other guy doesn't. So the other guy's personality is like the most outgoing, the life of the party. He goes to this karaoke bar and he sings to everyone badly, but he's charismatic and everyone loves him. So then the Sebastian Stan character becomes jealous of this other guy because he's like, well, I had to get handsome for anyone to even pay attention to me. And this guy is just coming in ugly and everyone likes him. So like the whole movie is just him dealing with my life is so much better now because I'm handsome, but the one thing that I like or the one thing that I want is being taken by someone that looked exactly like me, who has everything that I thought I couldn't have looking like that. And I think the performance that Sebastian Stan gives here is so good too, because in the first 20, 30 minutes when the movie's being set up and we spent the whole time with our goofy looking character, um, we see him interact with a lot of people. So we see how he reacts to when people make fun of him, when people are nice to him. And then when Sebastian Stan plays him, he's the exact copy of who that was, but looking like him. So even the
Mm-hmm.
way that he dresses, like his pants are a little too high, so it's just kind of awkward, but he's handsome, so he can pull it off. And it just a movie that really surprised me, especially with the way that it ends. That I don't want to spoil, because the performances was very good. This deformed guy, I didn't know him before. I don't remember him and in that movie that you mentioned, but I know that he's done
Under
a
the
couple
Skin.
of other things. Yeah, I know he's
Yeah.
done a couple of other things. He's really good at playing just an ass, just like a British asshole, but he's not an asshole because he looks like that, right? So you're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, good for you. We're rooting for you, but everyone it's like that dichotomy of like everyone fucking likes him, and then our character being like, wait, so I didn't have to change who I was to get everything that I wanted, type of thing. And yeah, I thought again, Sebastian Stan was my favorite actor of the year, and going from Trump to this, very impressive. This one is getting some attention, some award attention, I think, but.
He just
Uh,
won Best Actor at the
okay.
Golden Globes, as a matter of fact.
uh, Deserved because he plays a great deformed guy looking like that.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna have to give that a watch. That was a big blind spot for me this year. A Better Man. Sorry, not a Better Man. That's the monkey movie, not the
Yeah,
Elephant Man movie.
different.
Well, yeah, no. I maybe I'll do a double feature. Creature feature is what I like to call
Yeah,
it. So that's a good number two pick from the sounds of it. I feel like I just watched the movie, having you
yeah,
reveal everything to me. I think you went on for like 4 minutes in a row there. I'm gonna have to time that. My
yeah.
word. My number two for the year is, some people would argue this is a 2023 movie, but here's how I determine if a movie is of the year that it was released in. Was it released in theaters after New Year's Day, dot, 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 whatever given year? Yes. Okay. Did it have a premiere somewhere in Venice or whatever? Okay. Well, I don't care. The American release date for theaters that most people showed up to the theater and saw was in 2024. I'm not going by whatever they told you. My number two is Wim Wenders' film Perfect Days, which I saw this at the start of the year. I woke up, I pissed blood all over the shower, and I was panicking. I was like,
Jesus.
what happened to me? What did I do? And then I remembered, oh, I have to go see Perfect Days in 30 minutes. What am I going to sit at home and wait to piss blood again? No. All right, let me go see Perfect Days. And I went to the Coolidge Corner Theater, saw this movie, and by the end of the film, I was not concerned at all about my pissing blood. I was just thinking, damn, I got to get back to Tokyo as soon as possible. I love Shibuya. How can I get there? Koji Yakusho, who is the star of the film, is so good in giving a very reserved performance. This is very much so a mood piece. And it made me just have these flashbacks of being in Tokyo and wanting to get back to Tokyo and remembering how good it is over there, how wonderful Japan as a country is. And I don't know, it did a lot for me. It brought me back to that 2018 headspace of like trying to recapture that feeling, that nice, sweet feeling that being abroad gave to me. And it was a terrific film. I recommend it to anybody. A lot of people consider it a 2023 film. It did win the Oscar, I believe, for Best Foreign Picture for 2023. Meaningless. Opened in theaters February 2024. It's a 2024 movie. Chris Stuckman knows what's up. He put it in his top films of the year for 2024. So me and Chris Stuckman, two peas in a pod. Two men releasing their YouTube to movie films in 2025. Oh, yes. Perfect Days. That's my number 2. What is your number 1 for 2024, Hans? The moment has arrived. What on earth could Hans's number 1 be? How could it possibly top Deadpool and Wolverine?
I think for the first year ever, we might have the same movie at the top. And this was Luca Guadagnino's Challengers.
Queer. We love Queer. We went to Queer together, arm in arm,
Yep.
and watched Queer. Yes,
Well,
my number 1 is Challengers as well.
If you listen to Mumkey's episode of MSL, you will believe that.
Yes, Mumkey's convinced that it's like a secret gay confession, and it is.
Yeah.
But no, my number 1
secret.
is secret. Yes, you're right about that. We have the same number 1 film of the year, which is Challengers from director Luca Guadagnino, a Zendaya movie, a poster that is just Zendaya's face. Became
Horrendous.
the number 1 movie for the movies podcast this year.
Yeah. Now, tell me why.
I
for
mean,
your-
we did 2 hours on
did.
Challengers earlier in the year, and I
Yeah.
watched it recently. I'll tell you this: I watched Challengers in RPX when it first came out, and the reason I was compelled to go see this movie after Luca Guadagnino led me astray with Bones and All and Suspiria was the damn Rihanna S&M song that was playing in the trailers and TV spots. I had that stupid song from 20 years ago stuck in my head. And I was like, all right, you know what? What am I doing this week? Nothing. Let me go see Challengers. All right, we'll go see Challengers. And I sat down and I was blown away by how entranced I was by the film, how the micro stakes of it just being human relationships and this sort of maneuvering of, okay, well, I want to do well at tennis, but I also want to win the star tennis athlete girl. And also my best friend is into her, but also he's into me. And you're playing this musical chairs of stakes throughout the film, and as time moves on in the non-chronological method that the story is unfolded, I thought it was all just brilliant. And it has the best score of the year, the best music, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's soundtrack that they put together for Challengers. Amazing. The performances are very good, but the editing and the cinematography is really what makes the film and puts it on another level. To the point where, I saw it in RPX on a giant screen, and then I watched it in my mom's kitchen right around Christmas. And the TV was so small, it couldn't handle it. So, like, I was only getting the, top third of the movie in the left side, and it was cropped off. And I was like, wait a minute. I feel like there was more to the... And then when it was, New Rochelle, New York, when it's giving the location cards, it was cut off. I was like, oh, fuck. Maybe I should do something about that. But then I didn't, and I was just watching it like that. And I was like, this is still really good, even though it's cropped and it's on a tiny TV. So for it to be good on the biggest screen you can imagine, aside from like an IMAX screen, like a really big screen, and then the smallest, most piece of shit $30 TV screen that you can plant in the corner of your kitchen, and for it to play well both times, that's a resounding success for a movie. And I don't know. It's certainly the most energetic film of 2024. It reminds me of Trainspotting in that way, which is how breakneck it feels and how it is led by the music and the sound design. And I actually read recently, I was looking at Reddit because that's, what I'll do every so often. Paige is calling me. It's a bisexual Page calling it a challengers conversation. He's going to think I was being rude by just hanging up on him abruptly. I'm going to have to text him once we're done here and be like, sorry. I'll just do that right now. I care about Page thinking I'm mad at him or something. Anyway, where was I going? Oh, Reddit. So somebody read the script and said, hey, I really like the movie. I like the script, but where's the stuff about Patrick being bisexual and him swiping right on the guy? It just kind of reads like a conventional tennis movie. And I was like, oh, Luca Guadagnino added in all the gay stuff to his script. And we just assumed that this dude was like a bisexual dude. Speaking of bisexual again, Paige just texted me saying, Jay, I miss you.
Yeah. So to tack on top of everything you just said, which I agree on, I think the movie, it's weird because the way that it was marketed, and I only saw one trailer, they play off the sex aspect to it a lot more than it ends up.
There's like no sex in the movie. There's nothing. There's like Zendaya and Josh O'Connor making out, and she's still in like bed, mostly dressed.
Yeah.
And then the guys make out because she's fucking, doing that. But that was it. There's nothing really sexual that happens.
No, and I think one of the strengths of the movie too is that the way, because I don't know about you, I'm not interested in tennis at all. I find it to be very boring. But the way that this was shot kind of felt like a Rocky movie, like a fight, where using a lot of like POV and like how dynamic the editing and the shots were during the tennis matches, that it made a tennis match feel like the stakes were higher than what they actually were in the story, and it made the whole tennis matches feel a lot more dynamic that a tennis match usually feels. Kind of video game-y to a point too, I think, and that was a big strength of it, especially for someone that's not interested in that sport at all. Like that whole aspect of it. It was shot for not fans of the sport, I think, and just as like a very interesting visual part of it.
Totally. It plays like a Nike commercial from the aughts where they would actually have a budget and hire some interesting directors to do something different with the creative aspects of it. Paige is asking to hop on this pod. If this was not the best of the year podcast, I say, sure, Paige, just hop on, like a Kenny situation, but we're not going to do that with such an elegant and important episode of movies. Sorry, Paige, you're going to have to wait. But also, I completely agree. Yeah.
Also, we made it to the top of the list already. So what is he going to extend this episode for an extra hour? I'm hungry.
Yeah. Wow. Paige, I'm going to out you for saying this. Sorry to your relationship with Peter Vack. He said he liked Mass State Lottery more than Rachel Ormont. Maybe this is top film for 2024.
I mean, that's not saying much, I'm sure.
No, Rachel Ormont's interesting. It's an interest. I've used that word a lot tonight, and sometimes interesting is used backhanded. But Rachel Ormont, the ambition of that movie is more than what you'd expect from actors. And I will have to cover it at some point, for sure.
Let me tell you, if the movie was in a room that you were in, and the movie knew that you were the leader of that room and everything that was happening in that room, and the movie came in, looked at you, and then walked out without saying anything, how would you feel about that movie?
I would try to refrain from bashing the movie just out of spite, which I would have the opportunity to do. And there's a lot to grab onto, but I don't want to be that type of individual and creative artist. I have enough personal grudges as it is.
Yeah.
And, I've been antisocial myself at times and very rude and whatever. It is what it is. You got to let it go. Yeah. Talent is talent. And we're more talented, according to Paige. He just said that right now over text message.
Yeah, he's like, are you going to come give a class in acting? Give a little course in acting here. Actually, you know what? That would be so much fun because I don't know shit about acting.
I would love to see you teach a course on acting after Disorderly comes out. I think that's what's in the cards, really. I'll be honest with you. After Whether or not I would want to act in a movie again was kind of incumbent upon how people were receiving Mass State Lottery. And if people were like, oh man, this guy's sucking his own dick, he's doing this and that. And if I saw like a recurring bit of that, then I'd be like, all right, I'm done for good.
I'm out.
But
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. And in fact,
No.
people have been very complimentary of my performance in Mass State Lottery. So you know what? I will return to acting. And you're going to get 4 times as much of me and more close ups of my face and me jerking off. And that's going to be the movie. That's Is It Kino's review of the movie. A lot of jerking off. Why is Lores naked? Why is he? That was just a different video I sent you, Mumkey.
Yeah, you're just gonna be playing every character yourself. It's gonna be what is it, the clumps? What is the lower S clumps?
I don't have enough versatility to be able to do that. I think Jerry could do the clumps. Jerry would have to be the clumps, basically. And I would play, I don't know,
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle, the comedian on the stage who harasses fat suit Jerry.
Yeah, race coded comment there. Do you hear about how I'm glad that fuck, never mind. I shouldn't. I'll say this off screen.
What? No. What are you guys? Hold on. What is going on here?
Well,
What is this?
the old actor that we hired on State Lottery to play the Ziegler character, they were like, "Oh my God, I wonder where they found that old guy." And I was like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was on the Mass State Lottery. Both of him were on the Mass State Lottery commentary, the fake commentary track we did for number 400.
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyway, I think we can wrap up the show on that note. We've already went pretty long between the 2 episodes we just recorded, detailing a year in movies. Is there anything you want to add before we close out the show?
Yeah, I hope 2025 is better. And hopefully people won't be too disappointed by the lack of choices there on my top, because I just like if you're
I think it's a
disappointed-
very interesting top 8 that you have, an Elite 8.
Elite 8. Yeah, I feel like the other top was more interesting, but yeah, go watch Challengers. Go.
Yeah, go watch. That's really the big message of the episodes. Go watch Challengers, and stay tuned for some screenings to be announced of Mass State Lottery. In the meantime, head on over to patreon.com/Lores. Sign up for our $5 video tier, and you will get video of every single episode. And we put episodes out immediately after we record them. So you're going to get probably weeks worth of weeks worth of episodes in advance. If you sign up today, you're at least going to have these 2 back to back the day of, as opposed to waiting a couple of days in between. We do have an episode coming out soon on Battle Royale 2 Requiem that we're going to be recording to kick off 2025 proper, I guess. And if you would like to act as a producer for one episode of the show and decide a movie that we will discuss, head on over again to patreon.com/Lores and sign up for our listener sponsor tier. For $100, you can select a film for us to cover for this show. We will sit down, we will review it, and we can't promise it'll be a good review, but it will be the most honest, authentic reaction to the film we can possibly supply. Patreon.com/Lores. That has been Movies for this week. Thank you for listening.